During a game of Truth or Dare, James Wilson drew Truth and was asked to describe me in one word. He gave a lazy smile and said, a nanny, I guess. Handy, and hands-on. His buddies burst into laughter, thick with innuendo, egging him on to share just how hands-on I really was. I quietly left the party, hailed a cab to James's place, snipped the air conditioner wires, and poured glue all over his bed. Then, I blocked every one of his contacts and vanished from his life. A year later, someone on TV asked James about his first love. Young and reckless, he said. If I could turn back time, I'd give anything just to see her again. At that moment, my boss pushed open the office door. Colleen, we're launching an investigation into Wilson Corporation for tax evasion. You in? I didn't hesitate. Absolutely. When I returned from paying the bill, the private room was mid-game, Truth or Dare. It was James's turn. He chose Truth. His childhood sweetheart clung to him, giggling, James, use one word to describe your girlfriend. That night marked our 1-year anniversary. It was also the first time James ever publicly admitted that I was his girlfriend. My hand, which had been pushing open the door, froze. I stood silently outside the room, even holding my breath. Beautiful? Charming? Sexy? I knew I was only average looking. But a person's worth isn't defined by appearance alone. Beyond looks, there's inner beauty. I loved sports, was a great cook, kept everything tidy, and lived with order. Optimistic? Gentle? Warm? I would have accepted any of those. I even started to feel a little hopeful. In James's eyes, what kind of person was I? The room fell quiet. A nanny, he said. Handy and hands-on. The room instantly burst into uproarious laughter. The loudest laugh came from James's closest friend, John, who smirked, James, come on, be specific, what exactly do you mean by hands-on? Everyone laughed louder. Winks were exchanged. Vulgar guesses flew freely. James's little sweetheart finally stopped laughing and nudged him, say something. Look what they're imagining. James swirled his wine glass lazily, enjoying the show. Only when nudged again did he finally speak up, all right. You guys are overthinking it. I meant she's quick and efficient. She cooks, cleans, takes care of everything. That kind of handy. My clenched fists relaxed, just a little. I was about to walk in, when James added, as for the other kind of hands-on. What, do you want her to come demonstrate it right now? Another roar of laughter. Whistles. Crude jokes filled the air. And I stood frozen just outside that room, stiff and numb. The first time I met James, I was at my lowest. I had just left my mountain village for college, wearing worn-out cloth shoes, carrying a snakeskin bag, completely out of place in this big city. I stood by the subway entrance, secretly observing how others operated the ticket machines. That's when James appeared. He had the kind of smile that could melt winter. Neat white teeth, warm eyes. He helped carry my bag, taught me how to use the subway, and even escorted me to campus. That's when I found out. He was a senior, just 1 year ahead of me. I even tasted my very first milk tea, a drink he bought for me while grabbing water for himself. When he left, I took the triangle folded bills I had prepared, smoothed them one by one, and ran to stuff them into his hand. He looked momentarily surprised, then saw my shy expression and simply smiled, waving goodbye. He walked away so effortlessly. So casually, completely unaware that a delicate string of affection had quietly caught on the edge of his smile. I chased James for a long time. Eventually, he agreed to date me. But with one condition, we had to keep it a secret. And today, was supposed to be our 1-year anniversary. The day he finally agreed to acknowledge our relationship publicly. I had booked the room early. Bought a brand new dress. Spent the whole day getting ready. And on this day, brimming with anticipation, he called me a nanny. When the server came in with drinks, he spotted me standing stiffly in the corner and looked shocked. He glanced at my pale face. Miss, are you alright? I shook my head. Excuse me. I just paid for this room. Can I get a refund? I turned toward the private room, actually, add 10 more bottles of Mutai to their tab. I'm taking them. The bottles were heavy. Really heavy. I walked to a random corner shop down the road. And sold them off. With the cash in hand, I got in a cab. And went straight to James's place. As soon as I stepped inside, memories came rushing back like a wave. James and I. We were from 2 different worlds. By the second month of chasing him, I'd already heard all kinds of nasty rumors. People laughed at my appearance, my clothes. Said I was a toad dreaming of kissing a swan. I overheard one of his friends joke, helped that little country bumpkin once, and now she's latched on. What bad luck. I looked down at my unfashionable outfit. And made up my mind to change. With the help of my roommates, I began learning how to care for my skin, how to apply makeup. Truth was, I wasn't poor. My family raised dozens of cows and sheep. But I'd spent most of my life with grandma in a remote village. The city was a whole different world. I could understand why James's friends looked down on me. But James, he didn't speak up then. I thought that meant he didn't agree with them. It took me a long time to realize, the way his friends treated me was a reflection of how he treated me. If someone truly respects you, those around him won't dare make a mockery of you. By my sophomore year, I had changed a lot. My tan skin lightened. I started wearing skirts, doing my hair. The boys who used to mock me blushed when they saw me again. On the first day of the new term, James stared at me for a long while. When I confessed again, he finally agreed. That night, I went back to my dorm, so excited I couldn't sleep. My roommates were happy for me. But not because I was in a relationship. They were glad because I had finally grown confident. "Colleen," they said, "I hope you know this, you are the good one. You deserve to be loved by anyone." Back then, I truly felt like the happiest girl in the world. My studies were going well. My roommates were kind. I had made many friends. And I had finally ended up with the boy I had liked for so long, James. That night, I called my grandma. She asked gently, "Are you dating someone?" I rolled around on my bed, grinning like a fool. I'll bring him home for you to meet this summer." James had bought a place near campus. After we started dating, he often asked me to keep him company. Every day after class, I'd rush over to cook for him, do his laundry, clean the apartment. Even wash his 2 cars. Every time I finished, my back ached so badly I could barely stand. One evening, after I'd made dinner, it started to rain heavily. I didn't have an umbrella, so I asked if I could stay the night. James's apartment had 3 bedrooms and 2 living rooms. I figured staying in the guest room would be fine. But James looked me up and down and said, "Colleen, you're not thinking of sneaking into my bed in the middle of the night, are you? A girl should have some self-respect." So I walked back to school in the pouring rain. The next day, I came down with a fever. And I never again brought up the idea of staying over. Looking back now, James might have been right. What kind of girlfriend lives like that? I wasn't a girlfriend. I was a maid. No. Even a maid gets paid. Even a maid has a designated room. I was worse than a maid. I was unpaid labor. And I'd offered myself willingly. I took down the photo hanging in the living room. Ripped my part out and kept it, then tore James's half to pieces and flushed it down the toilet. Funny thing is, I was the one who had insisted on hanging that photo in the first place. But every time his friends came over, I had to take it down and hide it carefully. Just like a rat. Unfit for the light of day, forced to scurry and hide. I grabbed a pair of scissors, cut the wires to the air conditioner, the TV, and the internet. Then I went to the kitchen, pulled out a bottle of chili oil, and poured it all over the dish cabinet. Rotten milk and spoiled fruit from the fridge. I chucked them under the sofa. I went through James's closet, found all his underwear, and snipped holes in every pair. I scrubbed the toilet with his toothbrush, then gently placed it back where it belonged. Still unsatisfied, I went downstairs and bought a bottle of industrial-strength glue. The clear kind. Humming to myself, I poured it generously across James's mattress. By the time the whole apartment looked like a crime scene, an hour had passed. I nodded in satisfaction. Before leaving, I grabbed all his car keys and slipped them into my bag. Just as I walked out of the complex, James called. His tone was clearly irritated. "Where the hell did you go? Everyone's been waiting for you. Do you even realize that?" The fire in my chest had mostly burned off by then. I even had the mood to joke. "Take a guess. Who knows? Maybe I'm at your place." James paused. His voice turned cold. "Colleen, that's not funny." I said nothing. He seemed to sense something was wrong. "You're still upset about Joanna? I told you, it was just a game." Joanna. His childhood sweetheart. "No," I replied. "I'm fine. You guys love playing games? Then play as long as you like." Joanna had lost at Truth or Dare, and her punishment was to sit on someone's lap. She looked shyly up at James, who, without missing a beat, pulled her straight into his arms. Everyone laughed. Except me. My face turned pale. I paid the bill and planned to slip away quietly. But just as I reached the door, I heard James's lazy, indifferent voice say the word nanny. He told me to be self-respecting, but in front of his friends, I was a punchline. He let them joke about me, speculate crudely, make vulgar comments. I'd never been in a relationship before, but I knew. This wasn't love. He'd never treat Joanna that way. "Colleen, seriously?" James's voice had a sharp edge now. "I've made us public, I've posted about you, what more do you want?" At the mention of his posts, I almost laughed. After we started dating, James didn't want to go public. He said he didn't want us to become gossip fodder. But on Chinese Valentine's Day, he posted a selfie with the caption, "Happy Singles Day." My roommates were furious. They wanted to confront him on my behalf. I calmed them down while sending him a message. He replied coldly, I told you, going public is a hassle. Keep pushing, and we'll just break up. So I compromised. Back then, I was still naive. I believed that if two people loved each other, nothing else mattered. Not social media, not what others thought. Our relationship was our business. Why did it matter if anyone else knew? Until later, James started posting pictures of him and Joanna on vacation. Matching outfits. Sweet, intimate moments. Everyone thought they were a couple. And James never corrected them. That was when I finally snapped, and argued with him for the first time. He was playing video games the whole time. I shouted. Cried. Lost control. He didn't even look up. Keep this up, and we'll break up. I was quiet for a long time, then said, fine. Let's break up. After that, I cried for a long, long time. Forced myself to attend classes. Stopped bringing him food. Stopped giving him gifts. Pretended not to know him when we crossed paths. 2 weeks later, I volunteered at the school basketball tournament. James's team won first place. I silently handed out water bottles to his team, then turned to leave. But James called after me. He walked up to me, still mad? I only joined this tournament because I heard you were volunteering. He showed me his phone. All the photos of Joanna were gone from his feed. He handed me a key. Said I could come and go from his house whenever I wanted. That day, he helped me clean up the entire basketball court. Didn't let me lift a finger. Ran around collecting all the gear himself. I watched him, dazed, sweat dripping from his forehead. It reminded me of that very first day, when he helped me with my snakeskin bag. From a mountain village to a bustling city, I had endured countless stares and whispers. Only James had ever helped me without disgust. Only James hadn't flinched at my ignorance or my luggage. So I gave in. I forgave him. We got back together. When I visited his house again, the first thing I saw was the mess. Piles of takeout containers and trash everywhere. And now I realize, James didn't come back to me out of love. He came back because he realized hiring a housekeeper would cost money. He saw me soften after a little sweat and effort. So on the very first day we got back together, he brought me home. And had me clean the entire house until it was barely livable again. Looking back, I wonder what spell I was under. After so much belittling, so many humiliations, how did I still believe James loved me? I called myself an idiot. Then thought better of it. Picked up my phone, and called James 10 different kinds of idiot. Then blocked him everywhere. I stood outside the gated community for a long, long time. Long enough that passers-by began casting strange looks my way. My best friend called, her voice bubbling with excitement. Colleen. Quick, video call me. I want to show you the dress I just bought. I'm outside right now, I replied. Let's video later. Her cheerful tone gradually faded. After a pause, she asked softly, Colleen, what's wrong? You don't sound like yourself. From the moment I left that party to the moment I trashed James's apartment, I had remained eerily calm. So calm I could even joke with him. But when I heard her concern, something inside me cracked. I touched my face. My hand came away wet with tears. It's nothing, I said, staring up at the sky, forcing a light tone. I just suddenly figured it all out. Cheers to being single. Cheers to being free. James, the moment the pain you caused began to outweigh the joy I once felt. That was when I stopped loving you. And started loving myself. A year later, I passed the civil service exam and landed a great job. I never attended any of our post-graduation reunions. But sometimes, my best friend would bring them up in casual conversation. Hey Colleen, remember John? James's childhood buddy. She hesitated after saying it, watching my face for any sign of discomfort. Seeing I didn't even flinch, she relaxed. Well, he got married right after graduation, arranged by his family, of course. But guess what? He just got arrested at a massage parlor the other day. She started laughing so hard she could barely breathe. You know what the police said when they caught him, she giggled. Why is it that every time we do a sweep, you're there? I chuckled too, holding her steady as she doubled over. John had always been the most promiscuous among James's friends. The one who made the dirtiest jokes at my expense. Looking back, I should have known. A guy who hung out with people like John. How pure could James possibly be? Maybe he refused to go public with me. Because I'd block his chances with other girls. While looking for an old document, I turned on my old phone. One I hadn't used in a year. To my surprise, it still had service. When I opened the text messages, I found nearly 1,000 unread ones. Almost all were from an unfamiliar number. I scrolled through them, but I already had a feeling who they were from. James. The earliest ones were full of sarcasm and scorn. Even if you come crawling back, I won't look at you again. About a month later, the tone softened. If you return, I'll forgive you. Another month passed. His messages turned anxious. Are you okay? Why won't you answer me? The most recent one, just 3 days ago, was short. I regret it. I read a few lines, then turned the phone off and tossed it into a drawer. James was a mystery I no longer wanted to solve. The next day at work, I accidentally tapped open a trending video on the news feed. I froze. There, on screen, was James. He wore a suit, his hair slicked back in a polished, professional style. A proper business elite. Well, of course. We had always come from two different worlds. I was the girl from a small mountain village. He was born into the prestigious Wilson family. As the program wrapped up, the atmosphere turned more relaxed. An audience member asked, "What impression did your first love leave on you?" For the first time, the always composed James seemed momentarily lost. "If I had to describe it," he said slowly, "regret, I guess. We were young and foolish. If I could turn back time, I'd give anything to see her again." I closed the video. I didn't care to watch the rest. Right then, my supervisor entered the office. "Colleen, remember that investigation into Wilson Corporation's tax fraud? Are you in?" I nodded firmly. "I'm in." It wasn't until I arrived at the site that I realized the Wilson in Wilson Corporation was James Wilson. I stood at the entrance, stunned, when someone shouted, "Make way. The boss is here." I looked up. People quickly cleared a path. A black luxury car pulled up. 2 bodyguards got out first. Then came a pair of polished leather shoes. It was James. In a sharp suit, looking irritated by the heat as he strode quickly toward the building. I was still staring when a man bumped into me. "Hey, my coffee." The guy grabbed my wrist, refusing to let me go. "You spilled my drink, pay up." I frowned. He was clearly the one who'd crashed into me. The coffee wasn't expensive, but I wasn't about to take the blame. Just as our argument heated up. "Colleen? Is that you?" I turned. James was standing there, frozen. He met my gaze and tried to smile. But his lips twitched a few times and failed to curve upward. After a few failed attempts, he gave up and pressed his mouth into a line. He removed his watch, shoved it into the man's hands, and growled, "Get lost." Then he turned back, walking slowly toward me. We stood face to face. "It's been a long time." I looked him up and down. A year had passed, and he did seem more mature. The sharpness in his eyes had dimmed. His demeanor calmer. I half expected him to call the police and have me arrested on sight. The air hung heavy between us. James's voice was raspy. "Where did you go? I texted you, why didn't you ever reply?" I didn't answer. At that moment, my colleague arrived and quickly approached. Sensing the tension, he scratched his head awkwardly. "You two know each other?" James seemed to snap out of it. He gave a distant nod. My colleague extended a hand. "Hello, Mr. Wilson. We're here to see you on official business." James's eyes lit up. He turned to me with surprise and joy. "You're here, to see me?" Just as he reached toward me. "Yes," I said evenly, "I am." I pulled out my ID. "Mr. Wilson, we've received reports of tax evasion at Wilson Corporation. Please cooperate with our investigation." Inside the office, James's face had gone pale. He stared at me with burning eyes, like he wanted to breathe fire. I calmly flipped through the files. His secretary had handed over. Just then, the office door swung open. "James." A voice called, "Lend me some money." It was John. He stepped in, froze mid-stride when he spotted me, and after a few seconds of blank staring, recognition dawned. "Tisk, isn't this James's ex-girlfriend?" he smirked. "No, wait. Ex-girlfriend? What is it?" feeling regretful now and crawling back. He grinned like a child with a new toy, shamelessly scanning me from head to toe. "John, watch your mouth." James cut in coldly. John gave him a quick glance, curled his lips, but didn't say another word. Come to think of it, after 4 years of knowing James, this was the first time he'd ever stood up for me. When one of his friends mocked me. A pity. That moment had come too late. And now I didn't need it anymore. I set the documents down, and mirrored John's gaze with a cold, critical one. "Long time no see. You haven't changed a bit." He was about to reply when I added, "I thought the police were holding you longer. Didn't expect you to be out so soon." His face darkened immediately. I feigned a sudden realization. Now I get it. You're broke, can't even afford your own fine, huh?" Turning my gaze back to him, I added coolly, "Looks like life hasn't treated you all that well either." John looked furious, and James had to step in and hold him back from lunging. I calmly flipped through the files again, without even lifting my eyes. Then, right on cue, another person stepped into the room. I glanced up. Of course. Another familiar face. Joanna. James's childhood sweetheart. She strutted in on high heels, flawlessly made up, chin arrogantly lifted. But the moment she saw James, she morphed into a soft, pitiful little bunny. John's eyes lit up. Joanna. You're finally here. He looked like someone who'd just found his secret weapon. Colleen, seriously, I've never seen someone as shameless as you. You broke up ages ago, and you're still clinging to James? Joanna gave a gentle, understanding smile, playing her perfect part. Sis, I know it's hard to let go of the past, but what you're doing is really troubling James. We're almost engaged now. You wouldn't want to be the other woman, would you? Of course. So James ended up with Joanna after our breakup. I wasn't the least bit surprised. The two of them had rehearsed this performance perfectly. One playing kind, the other cruel. Framing me as the clingy, desperate ex trying to beg for his love back. James stood silently beside them, only speaking when Joanna's words grew nastier, finally calling me a slut. That's enough, Joanna. Then he looked at me. Colleen, whatever happened in the past, I can let it go. But at least tell me, why did you leave back then? I frowned. Couldn't help it. Before I could respond, John exploded. What do you mean, let it go? She wrecked your house. You were covered in glue, hospitalized for 2 weeks. How is that something to let go? Joanna chimed in, fanning the flames. That's right. Sis, I didn't think you were this vicious. You should definitely pay up. I turned to James and asked flatly, are you here to settle scores with me? He seemed to regain some of his old confidence, and replied coolly, not necessarily. That money means nothing to me. But you could at least apologize. I nodded thoughtfully. All right. Let's calculate, then. James looked confused. Calculate what? I just said I wouldn't hold it against you. I pulled out my phone. My wages. At current market rates. A cook, $4,000 per month. House cleaning, $3,000. Car washing, $50 per wash. 2 cars, twice a week, comes to $800 a month. Add insurance, benefits, call that $1,000. So monthly total, $8,300. We dated for a year, 12 months. I'll round it for you. Just give me $110,000. I held out my hand. Alipay or WeChat? James was so stunned he couldn't speak. I squinted at him. Wait, are you broke now? With a deep breath and an awful expression, he finally pulled out his phone and scanned my code. Joanna and John stood frozen, utterly speechless. John was the first to react. So, you heard us that day? I turned to him with an indifferent smile. Exactly. You rich boys couldn't even pay your nanny properly. I glanced again at James and Joanna, my voice full of contempt. Now that is what I call shameless. Joanna's eyes burned with rage, like she was already James's wife. And had some sacred claim over his money. She lunged at me, shouting, you bitch. I sidestepped. She lost her balance and crashed to the ground, howling in pain. Don't rush. Your turn is coming too. I picked up my phone and ended the video recording. Hello, 911? I'd like to report a case. I smiled at Joanna and John. These two interfered with official business, verbally abused, and attempted to assault a government officer. I'm filing for criminal charges. No mediation. Joanna, once a darling starlet, was publicly arrested on the spot. The footage went viral within minutes. I didn't hide it. In fact, I uploaded the full clip of her screaming, losing control. Her innocent sweetheart image shattered instantly, causing a media firestorm. As for John, his scandal reached his family too. His wife, quick and decisive, immediately filed for divorce. She even gathered evidence and presented it in court, demanding he leave with nothing. That evening, as I took out the trash, James blocked me at the entrance. I saw who it was, but acted like I didn't recognize him. Without hesitation, I pulled out my pepper spray. And blasted it in his face. Tears, snot. He looked as pathetic as a drowned dog. I stepped back, keeping my distance. What's this? Changed careers? Decided to become a stalker? Or do you miss Joanna so much you want to join her in jail? James choked violently, coughing uncontrollably. When he finally caught his breath, his eyes were red with discomfort. Still, he looked at me, so cautious, so heartbroken. Colleen. Can we talk? At a coffee shop, James ordered 2 drinks. I didn't touch mine. Who drinks coffee at night? Honestly, I was starting to question if James had any brain cells left. I got straight to the point. What do you want? Seeing the coldness in my eyes, his hand trembled slightly. Please, don't look at me like that, Colleen. Suddenly, he took out a small box. And pushed it in front of me. Inside was a sparkling necklace. Guess when I bought this? I said nothing. James let out a bitter laugh. It was for our 1-year anniversary. I ordered a cake, bought a gift, planned to surprise you that night. You said you were stepping out for a bit, and I waited in that room the whole night. But you never came back. His tender expression made me want to vomit. I exposed him without mercy. Oh, please. Weren't you having a blast playing that game in the booth? I pictured that night again. You mocked me with strangers. Was that fun for you? James's face turned pale. I was just joking. You know how they are, they always mess around. So you couldn't bring yourself to stop them. So you joined in. I cut him off coldly. James fell silent. After a long pause, he whispered, I'm sorry. Give me your phone. I spoke suddenly. James froze for a second, but quickly handed it over, unlocking it first. What do you want to see? I'll find it for you. I took the phone and opened WeChat. I started searching through his chat history. James must have remembered something. His face went even paler. But I had already found what I was looking for. I turned the screen toward him. James, if you're here to apologize, what about this? That night in the private room. It wasn't the only time, was it? I had searched a few keywords. The screen was filled with message after message. Most of them came from a private group chat. In it were Joanna, James, John, and a few of James's other friends. The only person missing was me. At first, they called me hillbilly, poor girl. Then it became bootlicker, leech. Clingy snot you can't wipe off. And after I started dating James, the insults grew more disgusting, bitch, maid. And even, James himself, had called me a bitch dog. The screen was full of slurs, each more appalling than the last. In the middle of the screen, a message from John, wasn't it fun bringing your little housemaid to ride horses last time? James replied, she screamed the whole time. Hilarious. The way she sat on the horse, looked just like a toad. Joanna chimed in, I took a bunch of ugly pics. Let's all enjoy them, haha. I remembered that day well. It was the first time after we'd started dating that James had invited me on a proper date. The horse had a bad temper. I was terrified, frozen in place, crying nonstop. James just stood there, watching me with amusement. Like I was a comedy act. Only when I desperately looked to him for help did he finally walk over and comfort me. I had thought. He brought me horseback riding. To share something he loved, to help me fit into his world. And I'd even blamed myself. For crying in public, for being weak. It was only now that I understood. That day, on that entire ranch, I was the joke. The only one who didn't know. I was the joke. My fear, my tears, were their elite entertainment. I picked up both cups of coffee. And threw them right in James's face. Then, with all the strength I had, I slapped him, hard. Tears filled my eyes. Memories raced through my mind. James being gentle. James smiling. James being cruel. James being indifferent. 1,000 versions of his face. Swirled together into something grotesque. I grabbed a chair. And smashed it over him. You people are the ones who deserve to burn in hell. A month later, the Wilson Corporation investigation was complete. James was found guilty of tax evasion. The amount, over 1 billion yuan. Most of it stemmed from an entertainment company he owned. And that company's only signed artist was Joanna. The news exploded. The hashtag Joanna Legal Coffee shot up the trending charts. Her brand endorsements all cut ties with her, demanding breach of contract penalties. The variety shows and dramas she had appeared in were taken down one after another. Production companies began filing lawsuits. Wilson Corporation's stock plummeted. Billions vanished in a single day. Soon after, James and Joanna received their verdicts, hefty fines, and jail time. Before he was taken in, James made one final request. To see me. I sat across from him, not wanting to waste a second more than necessary. If you have something to say it. Quickly. James kept his head lowered for a long time. Then finally spoke. I know. I've done a lot of unforgivable things. Saying sorry doesn't fix any of it. But I still wanted to apologize. He looked at me, pain etched in his face. I did like you. I just didn't know what that meant at the time. You chased me for so long? I thought no matter what I did, you'd never leave me. So I took you for granted. After you left, I was miserable. I looked everywhere for you. No one knew where you'd gone. I drank myself to sleep every night. And I never got engaged to Joanna. She lied. I didn't correct her. I just wanted to see if you'd get jealous. His eyes were full of sorrow. Can we start over? When I get out, you can punish me however you want. Just let me come back. I glanced at my watch. Still half an hour until my next appointment. Enough time to make things clear. I looked him straight in the eye, the way he once looked at me. Do you know why I liked you? James blinked. Because of my looks? My family background? I shook my head. No. It was because, on the first day of school, you were the first person who helped me carry my luggage. Who showed me how to ride the subway. James's eyes widened. That's it? That's the reason? I nodded. He'd grown up in a prosperous city, surrounded by privilege, praise, and pride. So to him, everything felt normal. Expected. He'd never understand what it meant for a girl from a mountain village to see a subway for the first time. He didn't know how many people sneered at me, how many stepped aside like I was dirty. When I carried my snakeskin bag through the city, I didn't belong. But James, he was the first one who reached out a hand. I held his gaze. But you weren't the one who truly helped me, were you? If I'd been a little older, met more people, I might have seen it clearly from the beginning. That look of disgust in his eyes. He showed me the subway machine, but kept a full meter away from me. He carried my bag, but his brow was furrowed the whole time. When I gave him money for the milk tea, I only saw his smile. Not the way he tossed the money as soon as he turned around. In his group chat, he once said, "So annoying. Where did this hillbilly even come from? I had to shower 3 times just to feel clean. Why does this school admit such garbage? Country people should just stay in the countryside." Later on, during work, I met Linda. A lively, pretty girl from a wealthy family. The first time she saw me, she said, "Oh, it's you." I froze. I was sure I had no recollection of this bright and elegant young lady. Linda looped her arm through mine, smiling playfully. "I know you. We went to the same school. You were amazing, winning scholarships every single year." Later, when we grew closer, she blinked innocently and finally told me the truth. "The first time I saw you was actually at the subway station," she said. "You were standing there for a long time. I figured something must have gone wrong. But I was rushing to catch a flight, so I told James to go help you instead. He'd just had a fight with his family and came asking me for money. He was super unwilling to go. I had to ask him 3 times. In the end, I promised he wouldn't have to pay me back, and only then did he reluctantly agree. I've known James since we were kids," she added, "but I've never liked that crowd he hangs out with. We've always kept our distance. Honestly, I didn't even want to lend him the money." I was quiet for a long while. "Then, why did you want to help me?" I asked softly. Linda flashed a beautiful smile, surprised by my question. "Do I need a reason to help someone?" she laughed. "Besides, if I hadn't helped, someone else would have come along. You wouldn't have been alone for long." She tugged playfully at my hair. "I noticed you right away. Your eyes are beautiful, and you have that little tear-shaped mole under one. So when I saw you again, I recognized you immediately." "Colleen," she grinned, "if fate brought us back together, would you like to be my friend?" I said yes. And just like that, Linda became one of my closest friends. Honestly, I should have known all along. A person's true nature rarely changes. How could James have transformed overnight from a gentle gentleman into a smug, heartless bully? The shift was too extreme, like 2 entirely different people. Unless he was never kind in the first place. He never meant to help me. I stood up to leave, but just then, I heard my name. I turned back. James was looking at me. I thought he wanted to say something else. But he just stared. When I was growing impatient, he finally looked down and said softly, "Happy birthday." I glanced at him briefly, said nothing, and walked away. Outside, my best friend's call was already coming in. "Colleen, are you on your way?" I checked the time. "Almost there. Order without me, I'll be there in 15 minutes tops." Laughter rang out on the other end of the line, followed by someone hushing the noise. I hung up and hailed a taxi to our meeting place. When I got out and approached the door, I could already hear faint sounds of shuffling and decoration being arranged inside. I called my friend again. "I'm at the door." She rushed out, flustered and panicked. When she saw me, she suddenly pointed at a nearby shop. "Oh no, I'm suddenly craving ice cream. Colleen, come with me." I followed her willingly, pretending not to notice the ribbon accidentally stuck in her hair. After we bought ice cream and returned, I pushed open the door. The room was pitch black. Then, the lights suddenly flared on, and a chorus of voices began singing, "Happy birthday to you." The room was beautifully decorated, and a large cake was carefully pushed into the center. "Colleen, happy birthday. Our little Colleen is 1 year older. Make a wish, 10 of them." Surrounded by laughter and cheers, they placed a birthday hat on my head and sat me at the center of it all. There were college roommates, childhood friends, people I'd met through work, and of course, Linda. Everyone was smiling, urging me to make a wish and cut the cake. I closed my eyes, feeling an incredible softness in my chest. In that moment, I made a silent wish. Linda squeezed into the seat beside me and bumped my shoulder. "Then I'll make a wish too, that Colleen's wish comes true." The others quickly protested. Not fair. They wanted to wish for me too. The room filled with playful chaos and laughter. I couldn't help but smile. I remembered something my roommate once told me, "Colleen, I hope you know, you're the good one. You're worth loving. Always." And now, I understood. Beneath the cherry blossoms, anyone looks beautiful. But my love, no matter who I give it to, burns bright. It's not because you were good, it's because I am. So I'll never be afraid again. I will bloom, radiant and free, becoming a breathtaking sight of my own. So, when I opened my eyes again, there was only the wide, open world ahead. I will become better. And I will welcome the future with open arms. Bold, brilliant, blooming. All those things in the past. Not even worth mentioning.